I guess this would be the end of summer garden check-in. This time of year, my interests always wane. You kind of get tired of things. Some things are overgrown. For the most part, we're doing pretty well. It's September 8th. Still pretty warm. Not too chilly or fall-like. Biggest change to this garden was ripping out some of the petunias. I just couldn't take the look of them anymore. It's a little bit bare for my liking, but it is cleaner. Millennium allium I've already gone by, kind of letting the coleus do its thing. Elephant ear in the back looks nice. And my hydrangea standard is a monster this year. It really took off. And I prune it every spring. Last year it was very floppy and I think I pruned it too hard. So I left a little bit more length and the branches are just gigantic. But the bees love it. A couple of petunias I left, but I'm kind of ready to clean everything up. Out with the old clean slate. The sedum is just coming into its prime. So glad I moved that here. Verbena, struggling. Whatever this little purple plant, I still don't know the name of it. It was a proven winners. Apparently it's not going to rebloom, so I can get rid of that. Meteor shower in the back. Looks great with the sun-credible sunflowers. My one apple on my espalier in the back there. And every time I pull into the driveway, I look and feel like the espalier is too small of scale to go with the deck up there. And then with how big this hydrangea standard is, I'm contemplating, should I try moving that monster over here? And then it kind of has the whole circle to itself, which would mean moving the sedum again. But that might be an alternative to what we have now. I don't know. I also don't want to risk losing the standard. And here you can see some pruned off branches. Must have been about 2 weeks ago. The deer came through, ate a ton of my hostas, the big beautiful ones out back, and some of that hydrangea. Not impressed. And just this week I saw it was a mama and 2 babies in the yard and they were eating cucumber leaves. Who wants prickly cucumber leaves? Well, planting, holding its own. The Thunbergia was a little scraggly there for a bit, but she's coming back. And the Scaevola, I love that. So that'll be a repeat next year, maybe some purple Scaevola, but the white's not bad. This has been a little bit cleaned up. The biggest disappointment, apparently I need to accept the fact I have more shade over here than sun, which is what I've always kind of had, because my snapdragons completely failed. Spindly, scrawny, weak blooms. I am enjoying the sedum cuts, so when I did the Chelsea chop, I was sticking the cuttings over here and I'm gonna make like a sedum hedge. Kind of excited about that. I'll have to fill in more. I have no idea if this is a celosia or what it is. I let it grow. I'm guessing it's a celosia. Yep. So this little beauty reseeded itself from last year from a $1 clearance plant that I had. That's pretty cool. And it was a late bloomer, but it's a hefty stalk. So what have I done over here to clean up? Pulled out some snapdragons. Tomatoes have been wonderful. Great harvest. Slowing down now. I did make some sauce with what I had. I transplanted some marigolds, so I filled in where the snapdragons were the weakest, because at least from afar it kind of looks like a marigold hedge. When I decide I'm truly done with the tomatoes, I'll take the fencing down over here and not care what the deer eat. But this did okay. it was nice having the tomatoes over here. So I say that it's not full sun, yet the tomatoes thrived. Glads, again, I don't have enough sun for them to really do their thing. Pretty from afar, but floppy and a lot of work. This is one of my marigolds that I transplanted, the Kilimanjaro white ones. I let this basil go because it was pretty and bees love it. This gets more shade than the other tomatoes, so it has a lot of fruit. I have picked a bunch of red, but it's slowing down. And my zinnias, I need to get more variety growing over here, but boy, they are pretty and huge. I would say 6 feet tall when they're standing up straight. My dahlia, which is the labyrinth, I did not stake well enough. That's one that just opened. I've had a few good cuts off of that. And dahlias are beautiful, but I don't know, it's a lot of foliage for these big blooms. Boy, they're pretty. Now I'm in the forest of zinnias. Also, when I'm thinking about moving that hydrangea standard, I sit up on my deck and wonder, should I move this little hydrangea? Because when I plant annuals in front of it, you can't even see it. In the winter and the spring, it looks cute, but then once everything else fills in, it's hidden. So do I think about planting it in the back part of the yard where I have another one? I don't know, I'm not great at designing. I plant what I like and then go with it. Sweet autumn clematis, gorgeous. That's been fun to watch. So many buds. That hasn't hit its glory yet either, but smells good. Oh, I didn't show the hardy hibiscus. Perennial hibiscus, whatever you want to call it. They have been budded up like this. So this was a transplant planted end of fall last year. Has buds. I am not expecting any blooms on it. The other one that I have on the opposite side of the property did bloom. And then this guy, I think, might squeak out a bloom. This one the deer ate too. So we have a bud. That's pretty exciting. Oh, and a caterpillar I don't want. We had very, very heavy rains, much needed this week. So things are kind of lush and green. So this is the cucumber that the deer munched all the exterior leaves from. It doesn't look great, but they've been the most productive plants I've ever had. So many cucumbers. It's been great. Not looking the prettiest, which is what I was expecting because it was a cutting garden. First time really learning about succession planting. The only thing I succession planted was zinnia. I had pulled out the stalk, figured why waste the bare patch, threw these seeds in, let them do their thing. I don't really know how to keep zinnia from getting spotty like that. It's not the most beautiful. And I don't feel like chemicals are the answer, or fungicide. And these ones don't look great either, but they're doing okay. They're blooming their little heads off. Not a great color variety over here either. Let me get out of the sun shadow. Maybe. Such a good workhorse. So zinnias, thrilled. Good job. Mr. Stripey is slowly coming to bloom. Now that it's close to end of season, I'm having to fight the chipmunks and try to pick things before they get to them. I had a ripe tomato in that other garden. Teeth marks all over it. The chipmunks got to it before I did. Oh, look. Yep. They got one. So I'm at the point where I love my fresh tomatoes, but I hate fighting the animals. Here's another mystery this year. Tithonia has always thrived back here. I know there's more shade. The big trees and the forest in the back are just getting bigger and bigger every year. More and more shade, earlier and earlier. So figuring that out. However, this one Tithonia bloomed, thrived like it always does. And these other two, humongous, like 10 feet tall and no flowering. I see that there is one bloom at the top of one plant. That is the first bud I've seen on either of those. I really want to rip them out, but part of me just wants to see if anything's going to come out of it. This same thing, Tithonia right here. Why is this one, which gets more sun, not producing buds? Weirdest thing ever. This Cleome did rebloom. I cut those off and they popped out some more flowers. That was a treat. And then the Salpoglossus, it keeps going. I just keep kind of hacking at it, but I can't keep up with picking it. And it's hard because you have these, you know, they go by one bloom at a time. So Gomphrena is finally producing well enough. However, I haven't had a good variety to make bouquets. I've pretty much just had zinnias, Gomphrena, and then the few annuals out front. And these snapdragons I've always loved making bouquets with, but they're so poor this year, which is sad. This is the neglected little garden of annuals. I should just put more perennials over here. So here's some deer destruction. They're not really doing anything, and I don't expect them to till next year. Both of these, Diamond Lake. This one was a big one back here. And then this guy, completely nothing, stalks. And here's the funny thing. Deer usually eat hydrangea in my yard. This was a gift I got in February. Threw it in a pot. It was one of those ones you get from the grocery store. Bloomed. The leaves have looked terrible the entire summer. But kind of cool that it still bloomed. Maybe I should put that in the ground. And I thought for sure the deer would eat that, because in the past they've eaten the macrophylla, whatever they're called. A little bit of a junk pile from some cleanup. Butterbird's doing great every year, bigger and bigger. I wish I could train it to like stop going here and go more that way. I don't think I can though. I had to cut some of these back. The planters were monsters. Monsters. And just messy looking. Still kind of messy looking. I'm debating if I'll throw fall mum in there. We'll see. This is kind of the star back here. The hummingbird's always on this salvia, which was failing for a long time in the beginning of the season and came right back, happy to say. This was a beast. I just couldn't take it. So those are some cuttings that I put in there. And I'm going to work on more ground cover. So we have lamium. It's the same as the one I planted earlier this season, white flowers. My snake root has a bloom, that's kind of cool. I didn't know for sure if it was going to do anything, and it is. Dainty little flowers. More lamium, and lots of vole activity. I'm sure you can see the raised up tunnels. Maybe not. Like right here, here. And I've been putting repellent down, but we did have 2 days of torrential rain. So it's on me. I gotta put more repellent and direct them where I want them to go. Brunnera, Clarence, perennials. They survive, they survive. They don't, they don't. Still would like to move this cardinal flower. Don't like where it is. This is one of the monsters. It's like an octopus with arms going every which way. But I like that it hides the stump behind it. Mint is really letting it go. Some flowering, and I rip it out a little bit every time I come through too. And the tour of the deer-eaten hostas. I haven't labeled some of these new ones. Plus we have slugs. And I was baiting very consistently. I need to just start putting beer out the old school ways. Oh, look at all the vole tunnels. They have never come up into this garden until this year. Captain Kirk. was beautiful, now ugly. I reduced this because, of course, lamb's ear is a beast, garden thug, if you will. Threw some back there. There's very little soil, so if it does well, it does well. I can rip it out if it doesn't. This has been a treat, this geranium, the Roseanne. I'm kind of curious to see what it does, how much it fills in. So behind these two coleus, I did put in a Sun King Aurelia, and I think that will be nice once these are kind of gone to have the chartreuse in the background, because it is mostly foliage plants here, and I have a lot of silver, green, white, but not a ton of chartreuse, and I use the coleus as red accents. I do have that red astilbe, which I know needs to come forward with something bright behind it, so maybe it goes there, so the chartreuse will set it off. I gotta keep those in check. Those are just wild black-eyed Susans that will take over the world. And this is the yellow sedum. So I'm not really sure, is this the flower? Is it going to look prettier? Maybe not. I don't know. Somehow these two are doing okay. Snuck past the deer, I don't know how. However, this big guy, the deer did eat from the backside, which is just bizarre to me. More deer damage on wide brim. And my beloved blue ivory that I replaced, the deer got this year. Last year it was the voles. This year the deer. Captain Kirk, the biggest hosta, it's the biggest size it's ever been. Destroyed. Ugly. Gross. And that's just one of those no name that you always see around people's foundations. I kind of move it here, there, and everywhere. Okay that got eaten. It does look nice when it's there. So yeah, pretty devastating. But yeah, look at that leaf. Like, they were bigger than that guy. Hellebore is okay. Lamium, I don't know if that's normal for the center to die out, like, or not die out, but be thin. I don't love that. Nothing new down here. Everything's kind of holding its own. I have to get the vole repellent down. And back here, the end of the house that's kind of neglected. This is kind of a zoo. I have an extra hummingbird feeder down here because they're super aggressive this time of year. So the one on the deck has been guarded constantly, and this is for the other hummingbirds. Kind of wild, not great, but it's colorful. And this has been a bit of an eyesore. So, kind of a lot's been going on here. I'm trying to add more perennials. I added a bunch of echinacea. I got a really good deal on yellow, red. Was it just yellow and red? I think it was just yellow and red, two of each. So I have yellow, red, yellow, red, and then I did get a white swan. They were very small, they were quart size, so I threw those in there. And the plan, because I know this hibiscus will become a beast, when these annual pennisedums are gone, I might shift the echinaceas over so that we have a little more fall color. I wasn't great about cutting the geraniums back, so I didn't really get a second bloom. I got a few scraggly pink blooms there. I think if I cut them back harder earlier, it would have performed nicer. And the globe thistle, apparently that doesn't rebloom when you cut off the spent flowers. Oh, I can show the hibiscus bloom though. So that's nice. When I planted these, I didn't know what color they were going to be, so if I had my choice, I probably would have planted a darker one there, but white's fine. It'll get along with the echinaceas, actually. So that's it for November. Next tour will probably be everything ripped out and put to bed, for all I know.